Great, it is working. Thank you very much for tuning in, which is currently nobody. But I assume that if I'm not showing this to someone else later or watching it myself, someone else would be likely glad to see this. Unlike last live stream, I'm going to be building different rockets than I was before. My plan is to create Sputnik 1, 2, and 3 missions, all within the bounds of Kerbal Space Program's physics engine. That will be obvious. Sputnik 1. First launched in 1957 and collapsed in a blaze upon re-entry January 4th, 1968. They launched it around October, so the very first satellite to be able to go into orbit and to send signals back. Though they probably did not make it into space, there might have been living creatures other than humans, dogs, or other sorts of creatures that were intentionally sent up to space that were in the hull, the shell of Sputnik 1. The creature? Fruit flies. Very surprising to most. Sputnik 1 contained very few items inside. A battery, a transceiver for the not infamous, but popular antenna, which looked like this, which would broadcast on certain frequencies. I really like how the Kerbal Space Program team have redesigned Sputnik, or what it really is Sputnik capsule, to be much more shiny, as it actually was, because prior to launch they would shine them and make them as beautiful as possible. However, these antennae are very contrasting, but because of the new graphics engine update, they look very nice. I'm going to move these further down and then closer inwards towards the body to make them look, I guess, more realistic. This is not good. What I want. Yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Make small adjustments, and maybe this is not what I intended to do. So you've made a mistake. I'm going to stay with this because I don't want to edit it any more than it should be edited. But anyways, Sputnik, after launch, broadcasted on 2 different frequencies. It was basically the Soviet Union's way of saying, we made it into space before you could, and shining that fact as loud and clearly as possible. I'm going to be designing mine as close to realism as possible, but I'll add some of my own features, which you'll probably notice if you're a big fan of Sputnik or space in general. Big fan. This is going to be pretty accurate, based on, well, memory, so maybe not so much. This is going to separate the main Sputnik spacecraft from the rocket. Now, in order to collectively make this entire video, or rather live stream, much more fun for me, I like to make things safe. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to protect Sputnik using a truss tower, of which will be jettisoned off of a base for the rocket. And make sure these are like that. So it's going to be the main of the satellite, or rather everything else except for this. And this is what's going to be connecting Sputnik to the rocket, Sputnik PSJR-71, or whatever it is, something like that. Now, the rocket building process will begin. I'm going to start with the fairing. This isn't going to be a large rocket. It's going to be quite small. So therefore, I do not need anything large. Just space technology for the Soviets being able to get into space. Especially in 1957. And this, keeping in mind that this is the first ever of its kind of rocketry. quite literally. The engine I'll be using is one of the older ones, much more Soviet-themed engine. Of these, I'm not sure which I like best. Which of these would be best in the condition of orbiting outer space? That's too large, obviously. This seems nice. I'm going to enable a shroud. I don't think that does anything different. This looks very spacefaring-y. That's even a word. Now, there were 2 stages that were left in space while the Soviets launched the mission. Reflector, which was one of the Soviets used, which everyday Americans could see through telescope and binocular states. The Soviets intended that as well. I'm building mine, gradually getting less and less slim over time, which is accurate to what the Soviets did. It looks very rockety. I really like this. Now, the final section of this rocket will be what's getting it into orbit in the first place. The FLC-100 liquid fuel booster tanks. There are a couple of these. They're not connected like that. Because this is a much slimmer and smaller version of the Sputnik rocket, I'll be using regular fuel tanks. I want to remain realistic. However, I don't want to remain as a overkill stance with this. Or, as an alternative, I could do. Yes, I very much like this option. All right, realism is not an issue. I have these. These are very good. Solid propulsion technology is always great. Its music is not needed. It's nice. I like classical music, if you can hear the classical music playing in the background. I'm going to turn it off. Right. Much less annoying. However, a break will always have to be a worrying feature in some of this. But I'm back, so there was no worry, even though nobody's currently watching this. Now, my first test rocket is ready for launch. I'm going to launch it from the Boomerang test rate, which is probably where more Russian-like things would be launching from. And now, the first launch will begin of Sputnik 1. Might be finishing this way earlier than I thought I would, as I'm only 10 minutes into this live stream, and I'm already close to being finished with the first mission. If I finish, I will likely do something else. What is going on? It's taking quite an abnormally long time to load. Oh, it is working now. I'll make very basic safety measures as possible, and without anything else left on my schedule, prepare for the launch. 3, 2, 1. Hold on, I apologize. Something has gone wrong. There's no audio. Wow. I'm going to let the solid fuel. Oh, I'm going to let the solid fuel run its course. I forgot to turn off my cheating from when I was doing another mission earlier. Very loud these engines are. I expect that this sort of rocket would be launched at night, but I'm not sure. Seems to me like it should be. I'm not talking much during this part because I'm having to think. Now, this rocket is very, very cool. And that is the first one to carry a satellite successfully into space. Just going to halt this. Uh-oh. No probe control. Gonna have to do this. Orbital contact. We'll wait for this to return. Over 80,000 meters and we're good. Not accurate enough to Sputnik, so I'm gonna increase and boom. Yes. We're ready. The fairings are going to deploy at rapid speed. 3, 2, 1. Pretty fast. Now, the final part of the mission. Decouple this and it'll start going pretty far from the base. to extend each antenna individually. Once it's far enough, I'm going to give another small boost to its orbit. 3, 2, 1. It's going to hit that thing over there and explode. Or not. I may miss it. Yeah, which it did. I think it just hit it, so now it's twirling around, but mission is a success. Yay. Sputnik 1 made it into orbit. I wonder what those are. It's 2 pieces of debris from... Oh, those are the Sputnik debris. A lot of things orbiting. Now, so I consider this mission a success. Back to the Space Center for the next rocket. An idea that I had is to make a rover on the moon. I'm going to abandon... Oh, wow. I'm going to abandon the original Sputnik idea because that seems kind of boring. I want to do a rover on the moon. Therefore, I will. Now, the lunar rover was sent to the surface of the moon by China back in 2015 or 2013. Not really a new idea. The Russians were doing it in the 60s and 70s. So especially not as much of a new idea, but I will attempt it as well. All right. Well, I apologize for that. Now, to continue. I'll be using a simple probe core. But, actually, no, that's stupid. How would I do that? I'm using a rove mate. How I will normally build a rover. I'm going to replace this flag with a Russian flag, hammer and circle and all. Looks quite nice. These wheels are probably too advanced to be used on a rover, but I could use them. Would you switch the editor? I'd prefer to use the smaller wheels. What? Where did my thing go? What happened? Oh, I guess it's too high. No, no. Yes, that was the issue. All right, whatever, it's resolved. All I'm doing technological, problems aside, because this is assume that they had great technology in the time that they built this. It would be much easier and to account for technological errors. Or I could send another rover to Mars. I'm doing that. This is going to be a Mars rover. I like the Mars rovers. Those are very cool. Now, this is not enough surface space to use, so I'm going to increase the size using structural panels. I'm going to make a design like this that folds out. Too big for that. I don't want it huge. I just want it what I want it. That's how I want it. I want it how I want it. The side area will be mostly used for solar panels and just electricity, but it's nice to have one. All right, now I'm going to do this. Yeah, this looks nice. I'm going to put solar panels here. Why not put a microwave oven on it? It looks a little bit like a face. This is funny. This is something I'd like. Yeah, I'll do that. Definitely. It's hilarious. Looks like a robot head. This is funny. It's a bit too tall. I can fix that. Ugh, so no, whatever. Give up. I'm just going to keep this little microwave guy in here. All right. For these sides, I'm going to put solar panels on them. Yeah, solar panels will just, they'll look good. Two different drills, two different things that they're collecting. So it's like on the ground like this. Drills will be about yeah, that deep. I did extract the material from the surface. already used this. There's a little crack in here with the Rubik's Cube. Pretty funny. I don't need it. Too big.